I was terrified beforehand because there were no guarantees. Bless you.
I'm sorry, I always sneeze in large groups when I do.
No, that's quite all right. You can sneeze anytime you like. Nothing to be sorry for at all. Much rather that you do that than to try and not sneeze, your ears blow off your head. It's really terrible. Yeah, I was terrified. And I asked a couple transmen. I said, my counselor actually is a transman himself, and he does choral singing. And I said, could you get your voice back? Did you get a voice? I don't care what it is. Did you get one you could use? And he's like, yes. And I said, how long did it take? He said, it took about 6 months or so. I'm like, okay, I can live with this. And I thought, well, worst case scenario, performing is not. There's a certain amount of technique and a certain amount of God-given or fate-given quality to what you do. But fact is that what really wins with an entertainer is how they present it. I mean, there's a bunch of guys out there. I mean, I love Rod Stewart, but how pretty is his voice, really? If you really listen to it, and yet people like him. He's successful, So it's like, it's not what you have, it's how you present it. So I thought, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'll see what I've got and I'll try it. But yeah, I think for the first, I didn't sing for the first 4 months. I did not. I didn't start singing until I went to NorWestCon, and I think. So that would be the 4th month, and from that month on to oh please, yes. From that month pretty much up until the first album, which came out in September, I want to say, that year. So almost a full year from the first crack in my voice. For almost, I guess, 8 months, I would get off the stage of any show, and I'd smile, thank you, it's been a great night, and I'd walk off the stage and I'd turn to my wife and go, I hate my fucking voice. Because it would crack, it would be unreliable, and yeah, it scared me, because I would think to myself, is this it? Am I going to be stuck with this for the rest of my life? Because I was spoiled rotten. Heather had a wonderfully accommodating voice. It was strong. It was 20 years in the making, 20 years schooled.
Didn't she have like 3 octaves?
She had 3 octaves, 2 and 2, so 2 notes above 3 octave. And I have a 2 and 5 right now. The others are questionable, but hers was seamless. It went from a chest tone to the head tone to the falsetto, with maybe one note that was dubious on the break. I have a break of 5 notes long right now. I'm trying to get it solid up. But she could go into a wedding. She could eat ice cream and chocolate cake and then sing like that. Just no problems, nothing. Nothing ever affected the voice. Just talking, just getting nervous affects my voice. I get up on the stage, I'll practice my songs before a show. It'll be in one key. I'll get up on the stage and I'll get excited, my voice will go up here and I can't sing down there anymore, so I just take the capo and move it on the guitar. But I never know what key I'm going to be singing in. So, it's really, yes, it's frightening. It's frightening, it's disconcerting, especially for somebody who's been cocky for 20 years and arrogant and saying, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Here's the world, ha, ha, ha. No, all of a sudden I'm coming out going, hi, I can sing maybe today. I don't know, give me 5 minutes, And then I'll pick a key and it'll be wrong and I'll have to gotta move the capo. Pardon me a moment. So I'm getting very used to being embarrassed, but you just take it in stride. And there again, this is a great support system. I mean, everybody just looks at me and laughs and says, "It better you than me, dude." So
I think a good chunk of it, especially if any of your fans are filkers, well, they know exactly what you're going through because they go through that when they're in the filk circle, and they haven't gone through a transgender change.
No. So. I have learned a lot more humility. A lot of the arrogance has had to go. Because, like I said, I mean, I was spoiled rotten. I read music before I read books. My dad would sit down. He used to keep a carpenter pencil behind his ear. And he'd sit down on Saturday morning, and yes, my dad had a drinking problem. He would crack a beer at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And he'd call me over, and he'd, come over here, I want to show you something. I'm like, okay. And I'd sit down at the coffee table, and he'd rip off a piece of brown paper shopping bag. He'd scribble with his carpenter pencil on the shopping bag, little dots with lines sticking up and feet hanging off of it. And he'd say, okay, this is a quarter note, those are eighth notes, 2 of those equal this, and this equals, 4 of those equal that. And he says, okay, now I'm going to write this out, and I want you to clap out the rhythm to me. And I'd sit down and clap out rhythms. And he'd tell me why it was right or why it was wrong. Then he used to teach me, he'd say, well, what's a chord? A chord is made up of a root, third, and a fifth. Well, I thought he was talking about a tree root and a fifth of whiskey. I didn't know what he was talking about. But I learned it anyway. I memorized it because he told me to. And when you got a 6-foot tall guy with big old mitts telling you what to do, it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. And so he trained me. And I was reading music, like I said, before I read books, which is darn good because I'm dyslexic. And so I knew music really well, and that was where I was very arrogant when I got into school, and they were teaching kids how to read, and I'm like, duh, don't you know this? It's like, no, not everybody gets taught before they're 5 years old how to read music. But I was there again, full of myself, thinking I was cat's meow, and But yes, I've learned a lot of humility. I think I've become more and more real, actually, in the past 2 years than I ever was before. So, and that's a good thing. That's what's needed. I scream and shout so you can hear. I tell you that the end is near. I still can't stand, I still can't think. You win me with my favorite drink. Give me that glass, oh, I feel asinine. And if I can't grump, I'll drink plum wine.